first 20 years of my life, I actually struggled with social anxiety, and I was afraid to show my true identity with the world. What I was mostly afraid of was not being accepted for who I was because of the beliefs that were held by my parents and also by society at the time. But the truth is, I was actually so afraid that I isolated myself from making friends. I was never the popular kid at school, and I was never invited to parties, and I learned to become judgmental and critical of others as a way to, keep myself safe, I guess. And I never really, I was always a loner. So another way I kept myself isolated and alone was that every time something good came into my life was to actually just blow it up. So I'd blow it up by creating bad debts, attracting unfulfilling relationships that didn't serve either of us. And I just took menial jobs that made me feel empty and worthless inside. So every morning I'd wake up feeling anxious and worried and afraid that I was going to let someone else down, whether that be my boss or a partner or my friends, the small amount of friends that I did actually have. And every night I'd go to bed hoping to wake up in the morning and have all of the emotional pain just go away, for it to be over and done with for good. And there were times where I even considered just ending my own life. I wanted it to be over that badly. And that's how I spent my days. I didn't know any way out. So I kept praying and hoping for some magical fairy that was going to come along and change it all for me. And it might sound crazy, I know, but honestly, I didn't know any other way out until this actually happened. I came across my old copy of You Can Heal Your Life. So it was the same book that my mother had used to turn her health around many years ago when she was first diagnosed with fibromyalgia. Now, when I dug it out, I'd been trying to think positively for some time. But up until this point, trying to think positively didn't seem to be working for me. It was a wet Wednesday morning in March, and here I was doing all of this positive thinking, and I received a phone call from my boss. And I thought that he was actually calling to congratulate me on finally getting to my sales target. Well, you know where this is going, right? He wasn't. He was calling to tell me that they just couldn't have any more handbrakes on their business. And in fact, I was one of them. They couldn't any longer allow me to stay working for them. And I was told they had to let me go. It just wasn't working out. And I remember it so well. It felt like my soul had been crushed, and the experience of everything going from bad to worse hung in the air like, the smell of a forgotten container from the back of your fridge. I was over my head in debt to the tune of $38,000 from 2 car accidents, and I wasn't insured, so I had to pay both my car and their car out, and credit cards from trying to keep my job and trying to make it work. My partner at the time had just left me, and rent was due in just a couple of days. And well, we all know what happens when we don't pay our rent, right? So here I was, literally days away from becoming homeless, feeling completely helpless. And I felt like there was nowhere else to turn. So I had to stop pretending to be positive because it appeared that that wasn't working. And I really had to find another way. I had to stop putting the happy-faced sticker over what was the mess in my life and what was really going on. And in that moment, I had to start taking responsibility for what was going on and figure out how to eliminate that very core negative patterns which were creating all of this mess. Now, I don't know about you, but it was one of the darkest days of my life. One of the darkest days which turned into my greatest light. because that's when something had finally changed for me. I discovered that by eliminating my negative thinking, it started to create space for the positive. It was like taking a cup of dirty water and simply tipping it out. Now the cup was clear to be filled with all that was positive. And I learned how to let go of the rubbish which had held me back and kept sending me deeper and deeper into this depression and anxiety. I discovered how to overcome my social fears of not being good enough. I learned how to let go of my anxieties, to find a true love and appreciation for myself, to create a life worth living and become the kind of person who others liked and really wanted to spend time around. I began to find employment that I loved with people who appreciated me, and I began to make top quality friends who actually wanted to hang out with me. This was like a first. And it's then that my life really started to take off. I started to feel good about myself. And not only that, for the very first time in my life, I really liked who I was. So I then began to go on and become a Heal Your Life workshop leader and coach. I became confident in myself, and I really began to learn how to love and approve of myself and of my life. Now, I don't mean vanity or arrogance. That's not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is having a real love and appreciation for the person who I was, right? And I got to start putting my skills and talents to work. Skills and talents that I didn't even know that I had. I started to get invited to speak on stages at events with over 500 people in the audience. I was running my own workshops, and people started coming to me and asking me to help them change their lives. They were people like office workers, teachers, mums, dads, doctors, lawyers, accountants, financial advisors, people who I believed and considered highly educated, who had their lives working and running extremely well. But it turns out that they were struggling on the inside just like I was. So I began to help all of these people. And it wasn't long before I built up a monthly community group with over 1,500 members. 1,500 people whose lives also began to change. And this is how I was able to begin to eliminate the guilt and the fear and the anxiety and the feelings of not being good enough, and go on and create a dramatic change in myself and eliminate the negativity from my life and help others to do the same. So because of this journey and being able to change my own life around and get to help others do the same, all of this is what has now led me on to becoming the Australian and New Zealand Heal Your Life teacher trainer. But at the basis of this, the truth is that when you eliminate negative thinking, the only space left is for the positive. You really have to know that you are worth loving. You do deserve to have a good life. And you do deserve to be happy. So with that, I want to say, stay beautiful. And as always, remember, I love you and I look forward to seeing you in the next video very soon.